All right, welcome back to another episode of Into the Valley, where today we will be looking back on the enthralling 1-1 draw against Oxford. I think every part of me was tempted to say, pretty much just starting this with, so on to the Norwich game, because it really was. I mean,
Yeah,
mm,
it's a weird game, you know.
it was two teams who don't like playing football,
Yeah,
both not playing football. And I think for
mm,
Charlton, for me, the biggest noticeable thing was, my God, are we a fish out of water when we get handed the game possession-wise? Because
I thought
I
the
think
same.
Oxford are probably the only team we will come up against all season who are happy to give us the ball, and we just looked out of place.
You know what it was as well. Like they looked very very shaky when they were trying to clear the ball out from their defence and things like that. They were at times it was just like kick it out wherever you can, sort of slice the ball out, give us the ball back constantly. But like you said, that we're not used to being in that position very often. So I think that really like put us a bit in the headlights in terms of okay, we're going to have a lot of the ball today, which doesn't, like I said, doesn't happen very often at all. What can we do? And to be fair to Oxford, they were always going to try and sort of put their backs to the wall and sort of make it difficult for us to break them down, because obviously that game was huge for them. They're on the back of 3 wins, so they've got their tails up a little bit. They're obviously at home as well, but I think they would have been desperate to get the 3 points, obviously, to really push on. And the position they're in is a lot more perilous than ours. So we were in a position where we could probably have a bit more of the pressure off us. And what can we do with it? But I think it was one of those where we just didn't really have many answers to them.
I think it highlighted everything we have concern-wise about our creativity. As I say, it wasn't one for the neutral.
Oh no,
It wasn't one. It wasn't really one for the fans, to be honest. It was,
no.
as I say, I think we went into it and we said we'd kind of built up throughout the last 2 results. We'd built up what probably could have easily been a game which was a must not lose and probably needed to win. And we actually said, look, even if we lost that game, it didn't put us in a perilous position. I think the point was a really important one when you see the results that came in over the weekend.
Yeah, it was.
Because I think if we had have handed, I think like everything, I feel very confident about the position we've now got ourselves in, but giving free hits to our rivals around us who potentially could catch us would be naive, and just by the skin of our teeth, we managed to save it.
Yeah, the big thing coming away with a point is you keep Oxford down there. Whereas if they get the 3, then it closes the gap back up, and then it becomes a bit more problematic. So the last minute equaliser actually, in the grand scheme of things, is massive. It's one of those sort of games. Probably now we write it off and move on. Really.
Yeah, and I think you maybe have to look at it as the bigger picture, which is over the course of 7 days we've picked up 7 points.
Oh yes.
And I think, to be fair, there's a lot of people who, if you said 7 points out of those 3 games, you'd have said yes, please, like bitten the hand off. But also, it's just swings and roundabouts, and we said this about Charlton. We go and beat Middlesbrough 1-0, and then we draw against Oxford. If that had been the other way round, you wouldn't have been as surprised, maybe. So I suppose at this point of the season, you do look at it as a bigger picture.
I think I watched Charlie Kelman's like post-match interview, and he was saying like, well, at the start of the week we were on 41 points. We're on 48 now. That's a huge jump actually in the space of a week. And actually, if we'd have, for example, lost all 3, we'd be on 41 points. Which, to be fair, you could easily have seen us losing to Middlesbrough and Birmingham, and then Oxford is one of those where it's a proper like scrap of a game. So imagine if we did lose all 3, we'd be right in the thick of it. So 7-point haul from that sort of free game week is huge, and it doesn't actually matter which teams you get the points from in the end. It's getting the points on the board.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think today was just to say a clash of 2 somewhat similar styles that just didn't blend well, and as I say, created a horrible game.
Yeah.
Well, shall we head into that first?
Yeah,
half?
I mean, we'll try and sort of pick the bones out of it, because it's really there aren't.
It's
going to
be probably one of our quickest, I think, of the year. Kind of first half, second half. What happened? Because there really was very, very little. First half, I think Charlton didn't even get it. We definitely didn't get a shot on target, and I don't think we even had a shot in that first half.
Yeah.
And I think from their side, they had 1 shot in the half.
Yeah.
And it was Donnelly, a player we know from, he was in the playoffs last year with Leyton Orient in the final. I thought he was probably one of their best players. He's on loan.
Signing,
on loan from Tottenham.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, when I saw him go there, he was one of the players I thought, I thought he could have been
Mm.
that creative kind of player we could have got on loan. But he had a free kick.
Yeah.
It was all right.
Yeah. That sums up that first half, really. They had a free kick that was sort of fairly close to hitting the target. But
Were you surprised at how poor we were in regards to not necessarily playing the ball? Because I think that's something we've seen over the last 2 weeks. We've said actually in little spells we've actually seen us playing the ball around a bit more. The only thing I can kind of come to is the fact that with the starting lineup, they are players who have completely and utterly, especially that midfield, put everything on the line.
I was going to suggest the same thing. Actually.
Does that maybe make you think, for example, why have we not brought in Rankin Costello into that midfield, who's a slightly more creative player? I do look at it and think with Jones, there's little moments like that, and they are sometimes the head-scratching moments where you think there probably could have been a little bit more switching around. I know we switch around the back line, and maybe the thought process is not wanting to make too many changes, but I thought the midfield was probably where we looked most tired and where those problems are probably mainly coming from.
And I think when you're lacking in creativity, it's because you've not got that zip around the middle of the park. And I think that's probably, like you said, whether we've exerted ourselves massively, which we know we have. In the last 2 games, we've had some real sort of dig-in performances. And especially we spoke about how like Doherty was on his haunches at the end of the last game. That will have carried over a little bit, no matter what like the recovery is for the game. You're still going to have a little bit of a sort of jadedness. And I think probably that did show a little bit. And then on top of that, we're a team that has struggled with creativity for quite a long time now. I know that it's got better in the last few weeks, but it's definitely one of our Achilles heels in terms of like we actually do struggle sometimes to break teams down. And we saw it. And actually Oxford were there to be sort of got at because they're in that position where there is fight or flight now for them. But we just didn't really have the options, or not even the options. We just didn't have the creativity to break them down. Essentially, was what happened in the end.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, that's the first half done. Second half, things got slightly better, I guess. It still wasn't a great game overall. But the 57th minute, they get their penalty. Ball crossed in. Ramsey comes across, I think it was Lancashire.
Yeah.
He goes down. I think everyone's looking around thinking, oh, none of that.
Yeah.
And the whistle goes. I don't know what your thoughts were on it, but I've watched it back over and over, and I still find it a bit of a bizarre one.
Yeah, for me, that is a soft pen. And you know what? Like, there's contact. There's definitely contact. But we were talking a minute ago, and we were saying how the ball's crossed in, but that ball, and I don't know if there's a rule. I don't think there probably is a rule on how it doesn't matter how close the player is to getting on the end of it, because he was nowhere near getting on the end of that. It was going straight into Mannion's hands, and even if he's not fouled, he's never getting on the end of that. So it's like, okay, well, how much does that influence the play?
And I think on that basis, though, if there is like someone's run across and drop kicked your striker, then I understand.
Oh, yeah, like a properly,
Well, I think when I looked at it, I thought if that is your bar for giving a penalty, for me, every single corner that comes in the box, you're giving a penalty. Like, there's going to be physicality.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't see that. Yeah, clearly something happened because Ramsey obviously hobbled off afterwards, kind of running off like he'd kind of hurt. But I just really...
Do you know what? Like, it's clumsy from Ramsey. I think like it definitely, like, he allowed his man to get in front of him, and then he was scrambling to get back. But are we stopping the goal scoring opportunity there? Absolutely not, because like I said, it's floating into the keeper's hands. So I was shocked that it was given, and I think it's an incredibly soft penalty. But at the end of the day, the ref's given it. There's nothing you can do about it.
How many? I mean, I know we've had a few this season in favour of us where we said actually putting yourself in the position and giving the referee a decision.
Yeah.
Maybe you could look at it, and as you say, with Ramsey, lesson learned, kind of not to even give the opportunity, because it was pretty poor defending on that front.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
And with a slightly better ball, we probably would have been in a bit of trouble with that. So but yeah, so penalty given. Brannigan steps up, cool, calm, collected, puts it away.
Like Hen, to be
I think he's probably one of their better players, isn't he? I think he missed out on the first game against us, but
Mannion dived the right way and actually nearly got to it, but it was right in the corner. To be fair, drilled right in the far corner. So yeah, fair play.
I suppose moving on, there's really only two other chances in the game. Charlton weren't creating anything,
No.
albeit we were getting the ball once again. It was similar to the first half in regards to just nothing was really happening, and having all that possession with no bite gets you nowhere. Nearly went 2-0 down. I think it was Lancashire in on goal, dipped it over the keeper quite nicely. Lloyd Jones pretty comfortable, left it quite late.
Yeah, he did. To be fair, like at first I was like, oh, like
Yeah.
is this going in?
Yeah.
And then he, like you said, he hooked it.
He was very calm with it, which I would expect nothing less from him.
No.
But
He's cleared it well.
Yeah, he's cleared it well. I'd put it in the kind of half chance.
I
kind
think
of
when you
category.
look back at it, and I think it was mentioned in the commentary actually, I think Mannion might have got a bit of a hand to it.
Okay.
So I think that took a bit of the sting.
Slowed
off
it down
So
a bit,
yeah, and then it allowed obviously Jones to get back and just hook it off the line. So
Mm.
yeah, it's good defending in the end, but again, it was a bit of a warning sign that actually, if we're still on top of the possession, we're still looking a little bit vulnerable to the counter attack. So, and that's obviously what happened there.
And I think the game went on, subs came on. So I felt there was a little bit of a difference kind of being made there with the subs, but realistically, we probably didn't wake up till 80, 85 minutes in, where I think we actually started to kind of press on them a bit more.
Fuller came on.
Yeah, Fuller came on and looked like he was going to make a bit more dangerous kind of. Danger towards things, but still, as I say, that was the only point of the game we probably switched on. It probably was those last 5 minutes into extra time. We were very minorly, I guess, huffing and puffing, but I think it was Ibby Fuller with the ball in from long, played into the box, and we get a penalty. And I have to admit, what their defender is thinking about, I think that is an utter moment of madness. There is zero. I mean, it is the most Stonewall penalty going.
Yeah.
It's so ludicrously obvious. But the more painful thing to any Oxford player there who think that is such an important 3 points to them, and any fan watching the game, there is such little need for it, because 100% the keeper is most likely going to get it. I think if Jones does, he's going to go through the keeper, and we know they're always giving him favour at the keeper. And it was so obvious. I mean, he had half his shirt down on the ground.
Oh, it was, like you said, Stonewall. And actually, the one thing I could only really think in terms of why the defenders obviously pulled him is that Jones is lethal in the air for us, and I think maybe he's thought, if I allow him to get on the end of this, then he could tuck it away.
But go in with some physicality and a shoulder barge.
Well, also just a shirt pull, a blatant shirt pull is going to be so...
He's pulled the where he's pulled his shirt, it genuinely triangles out. And it's so obvious.
Yeah, he's created a tent from his shirt, really. Yeah. And
it's just a bizarre misjudgment of the game, because, as I say, it's so... I think every single time, I don't see a way Jones takes that chance without either giving a free kick away or just missing it.
Yeah, no, I think at the end of the day, the danger was limited, and I think so that their defenders had a mare, and it's such a massive error from him, because, like you said, they were on course for the 3 points, which would have been huge for them. And then,
well, it would have been the difference when the results came in over the weekend. It was a difference. So they just came out of the relegation zone, I think, with a draw. But then when the way the results went, they're back in where they are, and it shows those moments, and probably shows decision making like that as to why maybe they're not down where they are. Because I say it's a moment of madness, but it's a moment of madness that gives us a chance, but not a guarantee of getting back into the game. Up steps Kelman. I personally, I didn't think it was the cleanest penalty, but it went in the back of the net.
It doesn't matter, does it? To be fair, but to be fair, it might not have been the cleanest strike, but it's gone straight in the bottom corner. So again, he's made it difficult for the keeper. And
nice to see Kelman getting another goal.
Brilliant. And we're starting to see him again, get into a bit of a rhythm again, where he comes on both times. In the last few weeks, he's come off the bench to get goals. So it's only going to do him the world of good to score goals.
And how often do we say with strikers, confidence of just goal scoring then will seep into their every kind of how sharp they are on the ball?
Especially a player like Kelman, I think, because we've said it from the start since he's come in for Charlton. He's been a bit unlucky with runs in the side and sort of struggled for a little bit at the beginning. So to now see him sort of get back up to speed with his goal scoring, which is what he's there for, to be honest. He's a goal scorer. So this is only going to hopefully push him on and hopefully then get him some more goals towards the end of the season as well. But lovely to see him tuck it away, and then that obviously secures the the point for us because it was so late in the game. I think
Mm.
we only really had to see out like a few more minutes after that went in.
Yeah.
And actually, in the grand scheme, like before the game, we would have obviously been more than sort of pushing for the 3 points. But a point is no sort of bad result for us because of, like you said, the results we managed to get in the last couple of weeks, and then on top of that, where we're sat in the table and we've managed to keep Oxford down the bottom. So,
Well, it was more important for them than it was for us.
which we said at the beginning.
Yeah, and I think a 1-1. Look, the game was terrible.
It
but you
was.
take a 1-1 that was really good play from us, and they stole it. It doesn't really matter.
It
It's
can
still
happen in different ways.
yeah,
can't
it can happen in lots of different ways, and we've seen that so much over the course of the season. You've only got to look at that as Middlesbrough as to what we kind of did to them.
Yeah.
But, the actual result and the end product I was absolutely fine with, and I think we kind of say we allowed ourselves where that wasn't as important as it maybe would have been. Post-match seemed, I mean, that's the rest of the game, obviously all kind of wrapped up, but post-match, Nathan Jones, that is, didn't seem too happy with...
No, I think like from what he was saying, he was sort of like, well, the players haven't really put into place anything that I told them to do in that game, and hence why we really struggled. I think, like, if you watch the game, like, obviously we had to sort of put ourselves through it because it was a pretty horrible one to watch, but there were a lot of times where Oxford were just desperately trying to clear the ball every time, but the ball kept coming back to us, and I think that's ultimately why we ended up getting that penalty at the end, because we were able to just keep ploughing the ball into the box, and it was sort of percentages in the end. It was like eventually, hopefully, something sticks. Obviously, we managed to get that. But
on that basis, I don't think that's something we haven't not heard this season from Nathan Jones, where he said, "Look, there was a game plan. I've put this in place," and they've almost like done the complete opposite. And I think we've seen that quite a lot, even in kind of visual sense of watching games this season, where we've kind of blown hot and cold. Where do you think that kind of comes down to? Do you think that's an adaptation to the league? Do you think that's a personnel issue? Do you think it's a skill issue? Because I think I've said this so many times. For me, you don't always have to be, even though I think there's a lot of potentially kind of League One players in there, and we are not a quality Championship squad. I do wonder why sometimes we look like we can play the ball round a bit, and then other times we just completely look like we're devoid of anything.
I think there's a few factors to it. I think one is that he's trying to play a sort of brand of football when we're able to, where we get our foot on the ball to try and actually sort of like be more creative. We struggle sometimes with again, these are things we've talked about throughout the season, but players like Doherty, Coventry, when they're on their game, they're able to be a bit more expansive, but that's not naturally where they're at their best. So maybe it's like when they're not fully on that sort of part of their game, it does make it harder. On top of that, I think, again, we're going to probably broken record territory, but players like TC weren't on it, in my opinion, in that game, and he looked pretty sort of disinterested. And again, when there's players like that who are the ones you look to get yourself that creativity and break the lines, when they're not on it, that is making for a really tough gig when you're trying to sort of push the ball forward.
Do you also think it's a system that when it doesn't click creatively as well, it highlights sometimes how bad that... Because I think if the creativity side of that isn't working, it is a very defensive unit, so also highlights it maybe more than other formations would as well. I kind of think that maybe goes into play.
I definitely think that's a factor as well. So I think like I said, and then on top of that, you got like the fatigue issue, where we just a little bit out of gas, jaded from the big performances we put in from the last couple of games. So there probably have been a number of reasons why we weren't really on it, but like we said before at the beginning of the game, you take a point, it's not the end of the world. And actually, what would have been more problematic, and probably we'd be a lot more pessimistic if we had have got nothing from, or maybe a point from like the Middlesbrough Brum game, and then we go and put that performance in, we're really starting to panic. But because we've given ourselves that breathing space and we're higher up the league, actually it's not the worst. Like, we can sort of push on from that. So we're lucky that we're in that. Not lucky, we've earned it, but we're in that position where we can get away with a point.
When it shows how important it is to have that there. So well, that's the Oxford game done, and as I say, it's one that will not last long in memory. I think the final one before we move on from that, and I think it's, as you say, it's a broken record conversation, but for me, you touched on it a little bit there. One player who I think noticeably over the last few weeks, but over the course of the season has been up and down, but definitely the last few weeks has seemed really off to me, is TC. And where the answer comes towards that kind of dilemma, because I have to admit, when I watched Ibby Fuller come on, I'm looking at it thinking, over the course of the season, especially as of late, I'm not sure TC has shown enough to be guaranteed that he should be that kind of starting role or just the only attacking outlet we have who has pace. We have got Ibby Fuller in the background. And do you think there's a question mark over why Ibby Fuller's not getting more opportunities within that role? Because really, over the course of the season, we've seen him predominantly at left wing back when we had that crisis position there. I'd really like to see him step into that role a bit more.
Do you know what I think we might see though? Once we're safe, because we will be safe. I think we might see that more experiment in terms of getting Fuller in for TC and maybe seeing how, because with the pressure off, it finally obviously gives him the opportunity. Because maybe the reason that Jones doesn't quite feel strong enough yet to actually just start him as in as many games as he would with Campbell is because he's inexperienced, he's young, maybe he might feel like he's a bit overwhelmed at times. But what I found with Fuller is every time he's played with no sort of fear. And I think that has actually made him actually a really good player to have in the team because he's the one that sort of thought, actually, I'm going to get my foot on the ball and run at Pete. I remember being at the Middlesbrough game and we looked pretty poor in the first half, and he came on in the second half of that game at the Valley, and I remember seeing him like running at Middlesbrough and actually like being really threatening, and thinking, yeah, this boy's got no fear. Like he's clearly like a young talent who's got the ability as well. It's not as if he's just like some raw talent. He's clearly got a very, very skillful sort of part to his game where he can beat players. Not afraid to have a shot, cross. His cross was the one that got the penalty. So
I think we need to see more of him. I
yeah,
really do.
I wouldn't disagree with that. And I saw a tweet go out. I don't remember who sent it in, but saying like, does Campbell actually enjoy playing for Charlton? Because the vibe that he gives a lot of the time is that he's just generally like pretty disinterested or like downbeat and sort of not really up for the game.
And I think the argument, and that's the problem, I think when you watch his interviews, that is definitely a character trait of his, and I don't think it is necessarily hates playing for Charlton. I think he is an incredibly comes across incredibly shy man of very few words. I think the worry with it is Nathan Jones has come out recently and said I think one of his biggest things is his mentality and the mental side of the game. Well, I think that's what actually there's a lot of talented players within football, and actually mentality is probably one of the key things to take you up those levels. And I really worry what I've seen this season from TC is, yes, we see the glimpses and the potential player there. The more the season's gone on, and if we're taking a whole picture, I think the mentality is a real big issue there. And actually to the point where I think some of the love for TC in moments where we say, oh, he's the pacey outlet, he's that, he's this, he's that. I sometimes worry it's because he's the only version of that we've really got within the squad. And actually sometimes your desperation for him to play or to prove himself is the fact we haven't got another option. And if we had another option, whether that's Ibby Fuller or a new signing in the summer, I think I've got to the point, unless I see something very different, I wouldn't be against the option of cashing in on a TC
I think
the summer.
There's two things that I sort of think when it comes to Campbell. One is, has he just naturally reached that stage? Because he played like 120, 30 games, I think, now for Charlton. Has he just reached that stage where he just needs a fresh start and needs a sort of new challenge, and maybe it's got a bit stale for him, that sort of thing? Has he just reached his level, in terms of, is he maybe batting a little bit above where he's at? I don't know. Time would tell with that one. But also, I've also seen people saying, and if we really want to push on as a team and be more threatening going forwards, that is a position really you're looking at to maybe upgrade. Because
it's vital.
Those wing positions, when you're wanting to break teams down and really be threatening in that final third, they are the positions that recreate things. They're the ones that stretch the game. And actually, if you've got an inconsistent player constantly in that position, it does hinder you over time. And I think we have seen that this season. There's been moments and spells from him where he's brought that. He's brought the threats. He's brought the sort of attacking threat for us. But far too many where he hasn't.
And also concerningly, I don't think it's just about the step up to the Championship, because I don't think these are too dissimilar to conversations we're having last season in League One. He's never been huge numbers, man. And I think even over last season, the blowing hot and cold, being good in some games, not in others, it was a trait he had there as well. I think I'm coming to the realisation with him personally that is a position we need to definitely improve on in the summer. And I have to admit, I think I really do think it is maybe his time to to move on.
I
From
think
the
there's
club.
quite a few Charlton fans in that camp now as well, and I think actually the summer's going to be quite telling to see where Jones assesses it as well. So I do know Jones from interviews in the past. I've heard him say that he really does rate Campbell, and I've heard him say that he thinks he's Premier League quality.
But I think that's the ability, but building him up.
Yeah.
But I think he's trying to say ability on his day in this moment. Yeah, okay, he might show glimpses of that, but a hell of a lot of Championship players will. And then, as I say, that reason for getting up and into the higher divisions predominantly is around mentality, consistency. I'm really struggling to see a player there that's going to offer that.
Yeah, it's a shame. Like, and we've said as well, like how we always want to see academy graduates like really push on and thrive in our team, but and sometimes naturally players do just come
Well, I think
to
if he went on, I don't think it's with any bad blood. I'd wish him well.
Yeah.
I just think maybe it is the natural point. And I think at bare minimum for me, and I know I said this earlier on in the season, I think at bare minimum it needs to be a loan move away. But my gut feeling is maybe it's just his time to.
I think he's 22 now, so he's played quite a lot of games considering he's still quite young. But at that moment in your career, actually 22 nowadays, if you're a very good top quality player, then you should be like old enough and wise enough, played enough games to actually start being quite threatening. And we're maybe seeing just too much inconsistency, which might hinder us in the future if we don't maybe look to upgrade. So it's really interesting to see what happens in the summer.
Yeah, and as I say, I'd definitely like to see Fullah step in and have a bit more of a chance within that role now that we've got that role open again as well. Well, let's move on then to the next game coming up next Saturday, 3:00 kickoff, and that will be against probably one of the most, if not the most, informed teams in the league, and that's Norwich at home at the Valley, a team who, as I say, are just in rip-roaring form.
To be fair.
Not conceding loads, scoring a lot. Seem to have gelled. I think under Clement, I want to say this year,
promotion form probably under.
Well, I think it's promotion form / almost automatic form. It's very good. They've got players coming back from injury. They've got new players who are added in January who seem to be doing well. Don't really seem to be missing Josh Sargent, who moved away. It's going to be a tough test. Maybe the kind of team that probably sees us better than playing Oxford, which I know sounds bizarre, but
the other weird thing about it is I don't think Norwich are going to have enough to make the playoffs now. I think they've left it too late, so they're kind of in a weird position where they're going to give it a go. Obviously, you just want to win as many games as you can, obviously towards the back end of the season, but they're in a position probably where the brakes are off a little bit. They're a bit more. They're free flowing because they know they're not going down now, so they're safe. And then it's like, okay, what can we do? So, in a weird way, that's a tough position to be in terms of playing against them because I think like they got nothing to lose now, have they? They're just going to go all out to try and win as many games as they can.
Well, if they win every single game for the rest of the season and get playoffs, it'd be incredible. If they don't, no one expects it. So you're right. Yeah,
exactly. So they've got nothing to lose. So it's a dangerous game for us in a way because we've still got something to lose because we're not safe yet. And actually, we really need to get at least a point. Like we need as many points as we can, but home games, we're not going to have too many left now. So it's like, okay, those home games become pretty crucial. And then it's like, I'm not sure Norwich are the sort of team where you can just put a wall up because they are pretty attacking. So I think you would struggle with that. So
Middlesbrough, we did manage to get against them.
No.
I think the difference being is Middlesbrough can create a lot, but don't seem to have someone who can put it in the back of the net. I think Norwich
pretty free scoring at the moment. So that's what I mean. Is like if we give them too much time and space on the ball, they're going to hurt us.
A worry in that regard that we could be looking at a Southampton at home.
I bloody hope not, especially with certain friends that we know that be right in our area.
Yeah,
we do.
They'll be very happy if that happens.
But what I would say is, if we're able to make it difficult for them and actually frustrate them a little bit, again, it might be one of those games where we frustrate the opposition, hit them on the counter, get a couple of goals. Like it could happen. So it's going to be an interesting game. And again, it's one that if you're earmarking teams that we've got left to play, they're probably somewhere in the middle of the park in terms of like we've got some that we'd probably be like earmarking. Sheffield Wednesday is obviously the obvious one to get 3 points. And now we're at the stage in the season where 3 points, 51 we'd be on. We're pretty much there. So like 8 games to go, we need 3 points, maybe 4 or 5 max to probably say that we're all right. These games every single game's important still, but is it?
Well, let's look over the Middlesbrough game in the Birmingham. We'll pick
Yeah.
up some results in there that we weren't
Don't
expecting.
expect. Yeah.
We've got the Sheffield Wednesday away, which I think I've repetitively said that should be 3 points guaranteed, but I'm still adamant we're going to end up dropping points there. But yeah, no, I agree. It's a strange one in regards to I don't really know what to expect, how to call it. Do I think we have a chance? 100%. It depends on what Charlton turn up as well.
It's also
the one thing I will say is Norwich are playing. I think they've got a Wednesday game. It's their game in hand because they're one of the teams that still have a game in hand. So they've got a Wednesday fixture. We've got the full week to recover, which could make a bit of a difference.
Yeah, it could do. And also it's the last game before the international break as well. So maybe like the players might be like, okay, let's go for it because we got a couple of weeks off after the game. So. Yeah, both teams will be in that mentality anyway. So,
expect to see changes? Do you reckon?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. Like I thought we might see some wholesale changes against Oxford actually, but we didn't. It was pretty solid to what we were used to seeing. So, I would again. I keep saying it, but I'd like to see Rankin Costello have a start. Like, I think he would. He'd bring a bit more energy, a bit more of a different sort of feel to that middle of the park. Maybe experiment a bit more up top. Maybe not have the two big, small sort of combo. Maybe go for a couple of quicker players up top. See if it works. Ibby, you could Kelman. Yeah. So I'd like to see a bit of a shake up, but whether we will or not is another matter. Jones is quite hard to predict, isn't he, when it comes to lineups? So.
Yep, and it would depend on availability, fitness, all of those kind of bits and pieces as well, won't it? So, I think the final thing we just wanted to kind of move on to there. So I'll bring up the league table quickly now. Yeah, so league table's looking pretty good. Charlton sitting in 18th. Oxford staying in the relegation zone on 39, us sitting on 48. So we've got the 9-point lead against them, 10 points above Leicester, because I think it was a weekend of kind of relative shocks in there. Obviously, West Brom picking up points, Blackburn picking up huge points against Millwall.
Teams are stepping up there, and this is what happens this time of the year. The teams that you think are down and out or looking really struggling, all of a sudden they start putting the fight in, and they get results against teams you don't expect, and then all of a sudden it really shakes it up. And those teams that are sitting just above the relegation zone, all of a sudden they get properly drawn into it, and that's what's happened actually.
Yeah, I think the most damning one there is QPR picking up the points against Leicester. For me, that was alarm bells to their fans. They must be, I think up to now, it's been a worry. Now that's serious that relegation is a real possibility. And I know there maybe is always that possibility, but for me, that was like a real wake-up call if they ever needed one.
Because QPR are hardly thriving. I think they were below us before the games kicked off this week. So, yeah, that's a huge loss for Leicester. And the way they capitulated as well, because they were 1-0 up in that one. I think they ended up losing 3-1. So, their fans, I saw some videos of their fans properly levering the players at the end of the game. And actually, you're starting to see fans, especially Leicester fans, will probably start panicking a little bit now. Because you're running out of games. That's just how it happens. Like, you will slowly run out of games, and then all of a sudden you see yourself trapped, or you're in League One, and that's a disaster for Leicester.
And I also think you see teams that have been in that free fall, and I know QPR is one that we have discussed over recent times, but Preston not long ago were playoff pushing.
That's mad there.
And they are now 1 point above us.
Yeah.
So they, look, I don't think they're getting relegated, but similar to us where I say that I think, sit in enough of a buffer to be comfortable. But my God, to think they're there, they are in a rotten run of form.
Yeah, and teams that are on a horrendous run of form are the ones that start dropping like a stone. So at least for us, like, our form has sort of hit at a crucial time. Like, we started picking up points when it really matters. But that's what I was saying about there's teams like West Brom. Who knows? Like, they've just won 3-0 against Hull. For all we know, they go on a run of a few wins and they bump themselves right back up again. So then it's the teams that really don't do that are the ones that will end up getting relegated.
Yeah.
And you look at your likes of Portsmouths and stuff like that. You're like, okay, have they got enough now? Because all of a sudden, only takes a couple of wins from those teams below, and then they're in trouble. So I'm fascinated to see how it all sort of unfolds. But it's hard to call it at the moment.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Well, what we thought, the game obviously was a bit quicker than normally as to kind of going over it. So what we did think is, I think from Charlton downwards, we just wanted to look over what the remaining fixture list was looking like for the rest of the season, just to kind of look at what those competition of people who are trying to chase up to where we're kind of looking in those relegation scraps. And I think hopefully to kind of give some reassurance, because I think there's some teams in there that have got some incredibly tough runs, albeit at a time of the season that's very tough to predict.
Yeah.
But also, I think when we look at what the point tally we also need, some games where I look at and think there surely is enough opportunity in there to get that. So, well, let's start off with the mighty Charlton, and then we'll move down the league. So, as we said, starting off this Saturday against Norwich, then got the international break. Next game after that, home game against Bristol, then on to Watford away, Preston at home, Sheffield Wednesday away, Ipswich at home, Hull at home, and then Swansea away for the final game of the season. Now, when you look in there, Bristol City not in terribly great form, feel like a bit of an on-the-beach team, Watford the same.
Yeah.
Preston at home, I think, is
Poor form.
poor form, definitely a winnable game. Sheffield Wednesday away. I think there's some. I don't want to say kind fixtures, but
we've got games in there that there'll be quite a few teams that won't have anything to play for by the time we come up against them. Swansea, for example, like they're not going to be playing for the playoffs, and they're not going down.
Hoping by then Hull might have, even though they're wobbling a bit at the moment, maybe it can.
So these games all of a sudden that could have been like, because really you do not want the teams that are like in the hunt for the playoffs or the ones that are in the relegation battles. I don't think of that list we've got any of the teams down the bottom now, have we left?
No.
So the teams we're looking at are the teams.
Preston, if you consider them.
Yeah, but they're like very mildly in that conversation. Like they're essentially they are safe. They'd have to have an absolute disaster. So I think on paper, but then we're looking at teams on paper, and that's really hard to judge because we've said how, like, in a weird way, when teams have no pressure on, they can be quite fluid and actually end up like really playing quite well.
Yeah. So, but it's a law of averages, because I think for every one you turn up where that is the case, you'll also turn up to the ones who don't quite turn up on the day. So, it's a difficult one, I think, really on that. But I think when you look at have we got enough there to, as I say, for me, get the points that we need, which when we look at it is probably 4 or 5 points more. I think there's more than enough.
If you're like a bookies now and you're looking at that list of fixtures, you're thinking Charlton have got more than enough there in that fixture list to get more than 3, 4, 5 points that they need.
I think so. And I think that's, for me as a Charlton fan, reassuring looking at that fixture list. Albeit I could look back on that and regret it. Well, let's move on to next then. Blackburn Rovers sitting currently on 42 points, so 6 points behind us, 3 points above the drop.
Yeah.
So with Blackburn looking at a home game against Middlesbrough this coming Saturday, international break, then Birmingham away, huge game against West Brom at home, Stoke away, Coventry at home, Sheffield United away, Southampton away, Leicester at home.
That's a tough run.
I think of all the runs that I've seen so far, that seems
a bit nasty.
It's quite nasty, albeit maybe some teams in there when you look at Stoke, Coventry maybe get enough in there that they're kind of nearly promoted by then. Sheffield United once again, but I don't think Chris Wilder's the kind of manager that wants his players, especially with how poor they've been. I think he wants them to go right to the end of the season.
Yeah.
Southampton potentially in a playoff push, and then Leicester could be an absolute dilly-ding, dilly-dong, couldn't it?
It could be, it really could.
Yeah.
Yeah, those games that really come down to the nitty-gritty right at the end of the season, like the last couple of games, and you see those fixtures like Blackburn v Leicester, you're like, wow, that could be a massive game.
Well, I think it was about 5 or 6 games ago. I think those last 5 games for Blackburn, I text you, because I think I remember looking at them thinking, oh, as a final run in, that is not what you want.
No.
Albeit, as I say, Blackburn have looked a little bit better recently, obviously picked up the points against Millwall, but I would be looking at that as a slightly more concerned Blackburn fan personally.
Yeah, I would. If you compare that to our run, for example, like you would argue we've got a much kinder sort of run of games than them, albeit we'll keep saying it, like you just don't know what's going to happen. Like we've just seen Blackburn beat Millwall, albeit like there was a red card in that game, but you wouldn't have called that at the start of the game, would you? So,
no.
And you probably wouldn't have called Charlton beating Middlesbrough and Birmingham. So it is a really hard one to. But then really you have to dig a bit deeper and look at form and actually what's realistic. So yeah, hard games on paper. Let's see. Yeah.
6 points behind us currently, looking at the 2 run-ins. Do you think a team who look like they could have it in it to catch us?
I don't know. I think like that, obviously, really, that's in our hands in terms of how many points we pick up. And then if they're able to catch us, then fair play, because they'll have done really well.
But that's what I think, and it requires them to have done really well
Yeah.
to kind of catch up with us.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to next then. The next one down from there, which is Portsmouth, a team who I think, when we look at it now on the table, they've got 2 games in hand, which is huge.
Yeah.
But a team who we saw kind of soaring off not long ago after they beat us. I think they're on a 2 or 3 game winning streak, which kind of has abruptly come to an end, fallen off a bit. They have got those 2 games in hand, but only vital if you do win them.
Yeah.
Currently sitting on 40 points, so only a point above the relegation, 8 points off ourselves. And fixture-wise, we are looking at Derby at home, which is a Monday night game, so tomorrow.
Yeah.
Saturday against QPR away. International break, then they've got Norwich away, Oxford home, Middlesbrough away, Ipswich at home, Leicester at home, Coventry away, Stoke away, Birmingham at home. Another one I don't think quite as damning as the Blackburn fixture list, but
not great for
some
them,
tough games in there. And I think as much as 2 games in hand seems like a brilliant thing, the other thing as well is that is a lot of fixture congestion as well in a time where other teams have only got 8 or 9 to kind of go for their end of season. They've still got 10 games left to play. So
yeah, they come thick and fast as well. And actually, when you got those games in hand, it just, like you said, it just congests all the fixtures. So all of a sudden, you've got like 2 games in a week rather than 1, which a lot of the other teams around you have got. So you've got to recover quicker. You've got to be on it all the time. And actually, games in hand can be great when you look at the table, but you have to actually make the most of those games in hand. You could easily lose both of those games in hand. And actually, if we look at it, comparing it to like us again, where they're sat in the table, 8 points with the 2 games, even if they win them both, they're still 2 points behind us. So, yeah, they're in a difficult position because they've also got teams like West Brom who are going to be bang on it. I think in terms of like they're after the win against Hull. They'll be wanting to really push on from that, and if they get another win, massively drags Portsmouth into it. So
yeah, and I think the problem when I look at their fixture list, and it's what you've got to look at towards the end of the season, they're playing a lot of teams who have something to play for. And that's the problem when you look at them. You want a few kind of on the beach games, and I don't think they've got many of them. So Portsmouth are one that I thought not long ago I'd have said comfortably. I thought they were actually going to kind of rocket a bit past us and hit the 50-point mark, but I think one that
could be in a bit of trouble.
Could be in a little bit of trouble, but it depends, because I think they clearly have got it in the locker to play better, so it all depends on that run of fixtures. It can either be momentum building or it can be pretty soul crushing, and which way does it go? So, well, let's move on to West Brom. So a team similar to Leicester, I think are pretty shocked at where they are this season, looking at it. 38 games gone, so same as us. Sitting currently on 40, so 8 points down, 8 points behind us, sorry. And the fixture list, you are looking at Bristol City away, Wrexham at home, Blackburn away, Millwall at home, Preston away, Watford at home, Ipswich at home, Sheffield Wednesday away.
So you look at those, you got Blackburn, Preston and Sheffield Wednesday are probably the earmarked games for like the ones that really are going to matter.
I think they've got some definitely winnable ones in there. They've got the Sheffield Wednesday game, which and that's the last game of the season.
Yeah.
So nicely timed in there. I think they've got a few on the beach teams as well. When you look at Preston sitting at probably just about that, Watford.
It's
Bristol City. It's not. I think
actually a horrible.
It's not
run,
a horrible run. I'd say it's somewhat comparable to ours. And as a West Brom fan looking at that, I would take some confidence, especially with the result they've just come from, that if they can just hit that little bit and get a little bit of momentum of what's just happened, that's not a bad fixture run.
Also, I would say as well with West Brom, like although they have had a bit of a bad run of form, and like, obviously they drew against us, they looked decent against us. Like they did, and if they had taken their chances, they would have beaten us. So I think they've got it in the locker to actually, if they do start clicking, and they come up against some of those sides, like you said, that haven't really got much to play for, I think you could see West Brom maybe going a little run and getting out of it.
But they proved this season they equally could go and muck up a lot of these results, and
it will come down to like one, their desire, and 2, the quality in terms of are these players that have got the quality, are they able to step up in that crucial time?
I think where I see him, and say that's where, for example, Blackburn, who are only 2 points above them, do I see them potentially picking up more points. And I think that's how you got to look at it. Do you see yourself picking up more points than the teams above you, around you, whatever? And that's where another reason why I see teams like Blackburn maybe being in a bit of trouble.
Get dragged in.
That's probably looking at that. I think West Brom have definitely got a chance to turn their season round and then write it off.
Yeah. Build for next year.
But yeah, once again, time will tell, won't it?
Yeah, it will, yeah.
Well, let's move on to a team we have just played. Oxford, a team who briefly came out of the relegation zone, but Charlie Kelman put them straight back in it. Sitting on 39 points, 38 games gone, so 9 points behind us. Currently, I say the top team in that relegation spot. Fixture list wise, we're looking at Southampton away. Then we've got international break. Hull at home, Portsmouth away, Watford at home, Derby away, Wrexham at home, Sheffield Wednesday at home, Millwall away.
That's not very...
Once again, they've got a few little ones in there, like the Sheffield Wednesday at home, Portsmouth away, I think it's a tough game.
Yeah.
Maybe Watford at home, but Watford depends what you get when they turn up there and on the beach.
They're a really hard team to judge.
Derby away, I think that's a tough run.
Wrexham's not nice.
No, I once again, and this is where... When I put my Charlton cap on again, I say 9 points they've got to turn round. When I look at the two fixtures, I just think...
It's hard to say.
I really struggle, and more for me because they picked up points recently, and I know they have got some good results. But you look at the results they've picked up, beating West Brom at home, Preston away, Blackburn at home. They're good results, don't get me wrong, but they are teams around and in poor form.
Yeah.
When you look at some of the teams they got to play against and the way they play... I'm not saying they're relegated because there's teams above them where they're only 2-3 points in it. But do I see them once again as a team who will catch us 9 points ahead of them?
I don't think they'll be catching us. I don't think they'll catch us, but I do think if they were able to get a couple of wins in there, you don't know. They might have just about enough to scrape to stay up. But they are one that are right teetering on the brink right now. They have got to really start getting some wins and
they have. To be fair, if it wasn't for recent form, then I think they'd pretty much be one you'd be saying guaranteed down. A run of, as I say, a draw against us and 3 previous wins has kind of dragged them in. And
fair play to them. They've at the right time they've started picking up results.
I just don't think they've got the quality. Really, when we've played them today, I think they've got the fight.
Yeah,
and I think that will probably get you through the games of the teams around you. But I worry that
it's when you come up against those teams with more quality. Like today, if for example, if we had had enough to really break them down, we would have probably comfortably beaten them. But we haven't really got that at the moment. But if they come up against a team like Wrexham, for example, who have got a really good form sitting in the playoffs, it's hard to see how they're gonna get through those games. But again, like we said, the Championship's a mental league.
Like,
stuff can happen. But
I think they're we'll see. Time will tell. But once again, I'm looking at these as teams who can catch us, and I'm struggling to see it. And the final one, as I say, one that I think we had them in the argument for high playoffs, and I think it was only because of the fear of a deduction that most people were looking at them as maybe that 6th spot in playoff, and currently in 23rd place, 38 games gone, 38 points, so 10 points behind us, and they're running Watford away, Preston at home, Sheffield Wednesday away, Swansea at home, Portsmouth away, Hull at home, Millwall at home, Blackburn away. Now, I think the one thing they've got to their season is, to me, they've got... Because I think the one thing is, if they do click on a day, they have got some real quality players. And if they can get something clicking together, they've got what I would describe as a quite kind fixture list. Now, I think when I looked at it prior to the QPR game, I thought, you know what, I look at that running and think, I think Leicester will probably quite comfortably pull themselves away from it. The caveat to it is that QPR game has to be... Because I'd say all of those teams we're discussing there are in better form than QPR. QPR were free-falling with Preston.
Yeah.
They had lead on them and they were falling out the sky. And Leicester 3-1. It wasn't...
Yeah, but they capitulated. They were 1-0 up. And, this is the thing, is, if you're not on it, those teams that you think, we should be comfortably beating them, they will turn the games around because... You've got to be on your game for 90 minutes plus every game. Championship, regardless of the team you're playing against, weirdly, actually, those games that you play in around the teams that are in the same position you're in, so we've looked at that list, did we say Blackburn, Who are the others? They've got like a couple of others.
They've got quite a few around them. So they've got
Swansea will
Preston at home, but they got Sheffield Wednesday away,
Yeah.
Portsmouth away,
Portsmouth around them.
Blackburn away. Let's say Hull at home, who might be by then.
Yeah.
Millwall could have something to play for at home. That's a tough game.
But those ones you've
Watford away next. Yeah, so
the Blackburn,
Swansea at home
Portsmouth-
as well. We said on the beach kind of team.
Yeah, the Blackburn, Portsmouth ones are massive for them because they're the ones that are really going to like determine whether they can drag those teams down over them picking up results. So, it's going to be fascinating. It is genuinely fascinating to see what's going to happen.
Well, because on paper you're saying, well, they should pick up points there, they should. But then if that was the case, I know they've had the point deduction and there'd be, I think, 4 points outside the relegation if it wasn't for that. But I think you've got to look at it and say, nothing can surprise you with that Leicester team.
No.
Clearly, they're where they are for a reason.
And those teams that you think have got way too much quality to go down, they can surprise you. Like all of a sudden, you've got players that never expected to be in that position. Which, like we said, for our predictions at the start of the year, we never thought Leicester would be where they were at this year. The players will be in that same boat, and are they up for the fight? That's the big thing. And like when you're losing a game, and it was at home, wasn't it? That game against QPR, so it's not even like an away game. In front of fans who are getting very nervous now and actually starting to turn. And it only takes for you to go 1-0 down in one of those games and the fans getting on your back, and it's really difficult. So, who knows? Like, this is going to be fascinating to see whether those players that are clearly, like, they're ex-Premier League. Like last year, that is mad.
But another team, when we look at it in the bigger picture, unless they hit automatic form of getting almost like 6 out of their last 8 and we don't pick up any points, do I see them turning around a 10-point gap?
Oh, when we're looking at them, when we're looking at how they're going to swing at us.
Yeah, I don't see it. And that's where I see below all those teams, and if there's any reassurance and why I feel maybe so confident towards things, is I think there is even an argument to say, even if we only pick up another 2 points all season, I think that's probably there or thereabouts enough. And I think there's some, as I say, there's teams in there that have got pretty tough runnings. There's ones who have more friendly ones, but I think there's a right old kind of plethora around there. But I feel confident that of all the runnings, we're on the kinder side of it, and there's some teams who've got some really nasty ones.
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
Well, let's hope that's the case. But that's it for this episode. Like always, if you do like and you have enjoyed the episode, please do remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It really helps out supporting with us. And we'll be back for the Norwich game. Hopefully a positive video. Hopefully a little bit more, even at worst case scenario, a little bit more to talk about. Yeah, that'd be nice. So always handy with a podcast, isn't it? So really appreciate, and we'll see you on the next one.